Hey, welcome to Tablenauts. I'm Doolin, and this is the second part of our tournament of new to me games that we're discussing. And I'm really excited because at the end of this video, we're gonna announce the winner of a bunch of you who submitted your filled out rest of the bracket of what you think I'm gonna pick. And I found the winner, and they're gonna get the game that wins at the end of this video. But maybe that doesn't matter to you at all. You just wanna hear me talk about games, so let's get right to it. The last we left, we had 8 games left, starting with Tranquility versus Shards of Infinity. This is just a reminder that these seeds are completely based on their BGG rankings, not anything that I would personally give them, because the 16 seed actually upset the 1 seed, which is unheard of. And they're here facing the 8-seeded Shards of Infinity. You guys know the drill. I only talk about games when they lose, because I don't want to repeat my conversations before. And the game that is going to move on is Shards of Infinity. This game beats out Tranquility for me, and Tranquility, while it got the amazing upset, is going to be knocked out. I think over 90% of you actually called this, and we're going to talk about Shards later in the video, but Tranquility is this awesome cooperative experience that I honestly can see myself going back to time and time again, especially with new groups. Now this game, it's very simple. There's just a grid and you have to play cards collectively in a sequence of smallest number all the way up to highest number, basically guiding this boat all the way up to the top. The rules, however, make the game very, very difficult. You only have a limited number of cards, and every single time you place a card next to another card in a sequence, you have to discard the difference between those 2 cards. Now there's only 80-something numbers, and I'm pretty sure like 30 to 40 spots, so you can't be discarding cards very often. However, the easiest way to win this game and the easiest way to plan ahead is to try to get cards every other space, because when you set a card between 2 cards, you only have to pay the difference of one of them, and it's always the least of the 2. Let's say you had a 7, a blank, and then a 15. If you were to place an 11 in between there, you would have to pay 4 cards. However, if you were to stick an 8 or a 14 in between there, you would only have to pay 1 card. This creates this mathematical problem that you have to be required to follow and hope that everyone else at the table understands. It's kind of like doing a group math project, but it's fun. And I know that I'm not selling you on this at all, but as a person who personally loves math problems, I love this game. It's also extremely fun playing with new people because you have no idea how they're going to try to solve the problem. And then slowly but surely as the game goes on, you begin to fill the board, but also get filled with dread as you realize, I don't have the cards to help this area out. I really hope somebody else does, until the last person plays their last card and you realize we have 3 spots left. It's not gonna happen. Either way, Tranquility is a great cooperative experience if you're interested in hard games as well as mathematical games. I think that this is one that could stay in a collection for a long time, especially if you play with a large variety of people, or you have a local game place that you can bring this game and play with new people. Either way, I'm excited to finally get an actual copy of this. I've only ever played it on BGA, but their BGA adaptation is very fun. Either way, Shards of Infinity is going to move on, and we're gonna go up to who it's gonna face, between the 2, who it's gonna face, and that is Fantasy Realms and Camel Up. While they're very different, it was pretty easy for me to actually choose which one I prefer, but I will say both of these are excellent, excellent games. So again, not talking too much about the one that is gonna win. In that vein, I will announce that Camel Up is gonna move on, and I would say about 70% of you got this one right. So Camel Up is gonna move on to face Shards of Infinity, and Fantasy Realms gets knocked off. And while Fantasy Realms is amazing, I just don't think that it holds up against Camel Up. It's an interesting game for sure. It's set collection, it's kind of drafting, not really, because I don't know, you're drafting cards, but then you're also playing cards as well. And that aspect of the game is interesting to me because I've never played anything quite like it. You start your game with a full hand of cards, and you could end the game right there and get a certain number of points, but the whole point of the game is to slowly but surely curate that hand that you have. You're gonna do so by taking the top card of the of the draw pile, or taking one of the cards that another player has discarded and then discarding one of your own at the end of your turn. This creates this push and pull mechanic of, I want these good cards, but I also don't want to get rid of these cards just yet because I know somebody else out here is going to need them. You know that everybody else is probably doing the same thing to you, so do you just go ahead and take from the draw pile, hoping that you get something really, really good? There's also a multitude of ways to win in this game, which I love. The paths to victory are so unique every single time I play, and the fact that I can just decide halfway through the game that I want to discard most of my hand and start with a new strategy because I've seen a bunch of cards that are laying out there that nobody wants. It's just a really, really good game. However, it does not beat Camel Up for me, and Camel Up is going to move on to face Shards of Infinity. We're going to wait on those two to go to the next side of the bracket. We first have Obsession versus Stuffed Fables. Many of you guys know my preference for Plaid Hat games, and you got this pick correct, like spot on. Stuffed Fables is moving on over Obsession. While Obsession is a great game, I think I need more plays of it for me to rank it higher. I've only played this once with Max. I think the mechanics of the game are incredibly solid, and it's a very, very good game that I would recommend to people. However, the theme just doesn't get me that much. Not at all compared to the theme of Stuffed Fables, which is just one of the best I've ever seen. However, we'll talk about that game later, but now we're gonna talk about the 3-seeded Micro Macro, the highest seed left in the game, versus the 11-seeded Set a Watch. Between these two, it was difficult to compare because they're wildly different games. Micro Macro is this Where's Waldo experience that I've had cooperatively with my wife, whereas Set a Watch is this RPG that I've played by myself. But keeping in line with my rules where I won't talk about the winner, Set a Watch is going to move on over Micro Macro. That being said, Micro Macro I am almost completely finished with. I think Emily and I have 3 levels left that we might play tonight to finish off, and we've loved it. We felt like we've seen almost all the map has to offer us, but the stories that it tells is just incredible. For one picture to have as much replayability as it has is incredible. I've never seen anything quite like that before. For those of you that have no idea what Micro Macro is, you're basically looking at this giant cartoonish drawn picture. And when I say giant, I mean it will take up most of your table. And then you pull out these missions that will guide you to find things on the map. And it's not just like, hey, find this telescope, find this piece of bread, find this roller skater. No, it quickly escalates to, hey, there's a dead body on the south side of the city. They were murdered beneath the supermarket. Can you find them? Then when you find them, it'll ask you, like, where did they live, or where were they before they died? And you have to observe their body like as if you were a forensics person, and maybe that person had some coffee or a bag of groceries. So then you can assume that maybe they came from a coffee shop, or maybe you can assume that they came from the supermarket. So you locate the supermarket, you locate the coffee shop, and you look at the seats around it, and you look at maybe the outer areas around these places, and then you'll probably find that person walking, still alive. The game will ask you, like, who do you think had something out to get this person? Then you'll have to observe all the locations that you've seen so far to see if there's any person maybe lurking about or who might be jealous of this person. It's just funny because I feel like I've been playing a game like this my whole life with little books of find the difference, between 2 pictures, or Where's Waldo books, or even just those online games you can play where it just needs you to find all of the unique pieces in a room. The only big difference is now you're solving a crime, which is just so fun. Can you play the solo? Sure, but I think that the shared experience around a table as you look is going to be really, really fun and interesting. That being said, I don't know if this plays any better than at 2, maybe 3, because I think that you'll get a little crowded looking for things around the board, and people might even get ahead of you while you're reading a card. I know that certainly already happens for Emily and I, where Emily will be looking at the board because she thinks she knows where the story is going, and she'll find 2 or 3 cards ahead of us because she's just excellent at this game. But it's a very, very fun experience. We're hoping to finally play the second game that came out in 2021 very, very soon, but I wanted to finish all of this one first. But Set a Watch is gonna move on because it is better than Micro Macro, at least to me. It's gonna face up against Stuffed Fables. So now we have our final 4, and we're gonna first talk about Shards of Infinity versus Camel Up. This, man, talk about hard decisions. These next two decisions were so tough for me. I'm very interested to know, out of these 4, which do you guys think is the best? Because I definitely think all of these are top tier games for me. That being said, the winner between Shards of Infinity and Camel Up, in my experience, is Shards of Infinity. So it's gonna move on. I'm still not gonna talk about Shards, and Camel Up gets knocked out in the final 4. I'm so excited to talk about this though, because I've only played this one time. That is crazy for me to think of it this highly, but I had such a good time playing with Max, Danielle, and my wife that I had to rank it high. The production quality in this game is so cool. Emily loves the pop-up mechanic of the board. I love the little way you roll the dice, and I certainly love the little camels. They're so cute. They're so fun to stack, and the way they move around the board is just so interesting. For those of you that have no idea what this game is, you're essentially people watching a camel race, and you're making bets as a race goes along, and you're trying to make money. And whoever has the most money at the end of the game wins based on the bets they've made along the race. Each round, all the camels except for one is gonna get the chance to move, and you have the opportunity as it goes around the table before all of those camels move to place bets on who you think will be the leader at the end of that round. That will get you some points, but what you can do is also place a bet on who you think is going to ultimately win the whole thing and who will ultimately lose the whole thing. These will get you so much points, especially if you're the first player to do any of these bets. While there is quite a bit of luck based in this game, I think that there is a lot of strategy involved as well. I loved the decisions that I had to make on my turn. Do I wait another round to make sure that whatever bet I'm about to place actually is a safe one? Or do I just really go all in on this one camel that probably has about a 50-50 shot of being the leader? This is such an approachable, fun game that I think families could enjoy, or even long-time game groups could enjoy. It's not too long, it doesn't overstay its welcome, and by the time it's over, you're still wanting to roll those dice and scream, "Camel up!" But that being said, it's still not better than Shards of Infinity, and Shards of Infinity will move on to the final round to face the winner of Set a Watch and Stuffed Fables. Now, I don't want people to get mad at me, but many of you got this pick wrong, and I'm sorry, because I was a lot more careful about how I talked about this game. But in recent videos you might have seen on other people's channels, I've talked a lot about Set a Watch, and Set a Watch is going to beat Stuffed Fables for me. Stuffed Fables is a game that I've played, I think 7 times now. Emily and I have been going through the campaign, and it shines. It really does. I feel bad that it loses here because I love Plaid Hat. I love Jerry Hawthorne. I love all of the stuff that they've put out so far. Mice and Mystics is one of my favorite games of all time, and Stuffed Fables is probably in my top 20. For those of you that haven't heard me talk about these, it's essentially really great storytelling dungeon crawler. You do this cooperatively, and you each play a stuffed animal in Stuffed Fables that belongs to a little girl who's growing up. And by growing up, I don't mean like old. It's like a night by night thing. She just got a big girl bed. She's learning to be potty trained. Where the magic sort of comes into play is she's gonna go to sleep. And as she sleeps, she's gonna have nightmares. And it is your job to protect her from these nightmares that want to see her fail as she moves into new stages of life. You're gonna go through many different decisions that you'll have to make. There's gonna be multiple ways off of each page that will take you to a whole new page that you might not have ever seen had you made a different decision on a previous page, all up until you face a boss at the end of each mini story. While I really like this game, I think I prefer the way that Mice and Mystics plays over the mechanics of this game. That being said, I still think the mechanics are pretty solid, and the story is just one of the cutest things I've ever experienced. I have actually painted both of the miniatures from this game that Emily and I use. I don't know if I'll paint any more of them because I don't know if I need to, but it's just a really fun experience that I've had with my wife Emily. And if you're looking for a game that can be cute, that you can crack open and learn the rules too, and oh my goodness, that's one of the downsides. The rule book is not that great, so if you need help, message me. But it's legitimately a story that will put a huge grin on your face half the game, and even maybe make you tear up a little bit. But Set to Watch is gonna move on, and now let's talk about the final two. We have Shards of Infinity, a 2-player game of deck building that has actually knocked off Star Realms for me, which, if any of you know my love for Star Realms, that's a huge compliment. This game is incredible. It has multiple paths to victory, especially the use of energy that you're collecting throughout the game, trying to get it up to 30 so that you can just automatically kill the other person with a card that you start the game with, but also giving you boosts along the way to other cards. Like, you might not even be going for that strategy. You could just really want to get your shard, your energy counter up to 10, 15, 20, and all of a sudden all of your cards that you've been collecting that have these little extra parts at the bottom that say, hey, get the energy up to this point, suddenly become wildly powerful. And I love that because your hand grows. It slowly but surely, as the game goes on, even without you buying new stuff, will become more powerful. Emily loves this game. Jazz from Lobby of the Hobbies, he's agreed to play with me a whole bunch. I've played with him online. It is such a fun game that has taken over my deck building game catalog. I don't have much of a desire to play Star Realms anymore. And that being said, I've played Star Realms 600 plus times, so maybe I'm just tired of it. Don't worry guys, it's not what I'm gonna cull, but Shards of Infinity is my new love in deck building. So we've talked about it. Let's talk about Set to Watch real fast. For those of you that have not heard me talk about this, this is a solo, best at solo experienced game. You can play 1 to 4 co-op, but I just don't think that it would shine there. The decision making that you have at one player is just so fun. You pick 4 characters that are all Dungeons and Dragons related. You have the cleric, you have the ranger, you have the barbarian, all of these different characters that you can use to go on this journey that you're gonna go on for the next probably hour. Each of them have associated dice, a pool of 3 that you'll roll at the beginning of each round, and then you'll use those dice to accomplish tasks throughout the round. One of those characters you're gonna need to decide to send to the camp, and they're going to, for the whole round, chop firewood so that you can see enemies further out amongst the fire and at night. You're gonna need to potentially scout ahead so you can see the enemies that might be on the horizon. You could also re-equip new abilities that you didn't like when you drew them up, or if you have a high enough roll, you can also heal one of those abilities because you start the game with only 2 of your 3 unlocked. The other 3 characters you're going to use to face the horde that will be coming at you. Horde is actually a bad way of describing it because there's a whole other mechanic of an actual horde that will come at you at the end of the game. But just know that every single round you're gonna be facing a number of enemies that will be standing in a line. And they're gonna come at you and you have to take care of them one by one. And it's not a I hurt them, they hurt me mechanic. You use all of the dice and kill as many as you can, and whatever is left is gonna do damage to you. And it does this well. I have to say, this is very, very good because it's still extremely hard. You're probably gonna get damage. You'd think that a game that let you take all of your turns first would be overpowered to the players, but it's not. And I really hope that other games start to do this more, because there's nothing I hate more than waiting forever for the turn to get back to me so that I can do cool things and my friends can do cool things, just as the enemy just keeps doing things to me. And honestly, the dread I feel as I realize we only have so many dice and these enemies are guaranteed to hit us, and I think my characters might die because it's all on you. It's not just a luck of the die roll that the enemy got. It's not just, oh man, if I had one more turn. You have a whole lot of control over this game. And I think that's why I like it. It's essentially a Dungeons and Dragons RPG experience for one person. And I tried to explain that to some people and they were just like, that's kind of sad, because I would wait, like Dungeons and Dragons, the fun of it is being with others. And while I completely agree, and I wish that I could just play Dungeons and Dragons all the time, this is still a really, really great experience. And I've tried to explain it, and I feel like you just gotta play it. It's just one of those things that if you play it, you'll understand. And so based off of that, I'm picking Set a Watch as the winner of this tournament. Some of you guys were spot on with that pick. I think about 30% of brackets that were sent in picked Set a Watch as the winner. Stuffed Fables was probably picked a little bit more, and I completely get it because you know how much I love Plaid Hat games, but Set a Watch is just this game that I think it's gonna be in my top 10, especially with the Swords of the Coin expansion, standalone expansion that came out in 2021. I just think this game is incredible. It's an experience that every person should try at least once to see if they like it. It just shines. It's so, so good. So with that, the winner of the tournament challenge is, I hope that I'm pronouncing your username right, it's Furia Amberdale. You actually picked all but one correct, and it was the first round pick of Obsession and Stuffed Fables. So you're gonna be the winner of Set a Watch, and we're gonna obviously contact you in the Discord. For those of you that are interested though in playing the next round of this, because you should be interested, because I think there were a total of maybe 20 brackets, 30 brackets that were sent in. So your chances of winning a lot higher than any other tournament challenge you're gonna do. Max is going to do one soon. He's loved the concept of this. He's gonna film his own version of this very soon. And if you guys like this, let us know, because I love brackets. I think that they're so fun. It's helped me actually discuss games better, and I'm constantly playing new to me games. So this is something that we could revisit rather often, but if this is something that maybe it's just like once in a blue moon, you guys liked it, but you don't want to do it all the time, let us know. We love you guys. We hope that you enjoyed this experience. Thank you guys for humoring me and playing along. It was very, very fun seeing everybody's picks. It was very hard to keep quiet as people were very close sometimes, but just maybe got one pick off and it threw the rest of their bracket off. Anyway, I hope you guys have a great week. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.